Welcome back from an ad break. As mentioned, we are doing the impact of recent legislation on businesses. So we're going to start off with the Skills Development Act. Don't forget, under Skills Development Act, we'll be focusing on the purposes, the impact, ways to comply, the penalties, and also the rules. So for now, we're going to go to the purposes first. What is the purpose of the Skills Development Act? Skills Development Act develops the skills of people in South Africa in order to improve productivity. Very important, because obviously when you're skilled, when you know better, you're able to work better or to do better because of the skill that you are given. Right. It improves the chances of getting a job for previously disadvantaged people. Now, let's not forget who is our previously disadvantaged people. We are looking at Black people, we are looking at women, we are looking at people with disability. So here we've got our Black people, we've got our women, we've got people living with disability. These are our previously disadvantaged individuals. Right. To redress the imbalances of the past through education and training. That's the whole purpose of the Skills Development Act, to redress the imbalances. Right, so that's what used to happen in the past. Black people, women, people living with disabilities were discriminated against. So the whole purpose of Skills Development Act is to redress those imbalances. Right. We move on to the impact. Remember, I said we've got the purpose and the impact and other topics, but we're going to do them for now. We'll be focusing on the impact of the Skills Development Act. Don't forget, the impact refers to the positives and the negatives. Right. The positives of the Skills Development Act is that it trains employees to improve productivity in the workplace. It helps us when people are trained, they become more productive because they know better, they know more, so they're able to work faster. And when productivity improves or increases, then also sales are increasing. It promotes self-employment and Black entrepreneurship. So meaning now more Black people, they can start their own businesses. Don't forget, Black is part of the previously disadvantaged individuals. Right, so now we're going to move on to the negatives. It increases, these are the negatives, it increases the cost as the process requires a large amount of paperwork. Obviously, we have to write down everything that we are doing, who is going for training, who's going to train them, and how much does it cost, because training is money. Not only is it money, but it's also time consuming. So there's an increase in the cost as the process requires a large amount of paperwork, which is a disadvantage. Right. The skills development levy could be an extra burden to financially struggling business, because the business has to pay a certain amount of money towards the skills development levy into into SARS basically. However, it can place an extra burden to a business that is financially struggling. So that is a disadvantage of the Skills Development Act. So we've done two headings. We've done the purposes, we've done the impacts. Now we go to the third one, which is ways to comply with the Skills Development Act. So as a business, how can we comply? How can we follow the Skills Development Act? What must we do as a business in order for us to comply? So employers who collect payee, which is pay as you earn, should register with the CETAs. So if as a business or as an employer, I registered with the CETAs, it means I am compliant. It means I comply with the CETAs. 1% of an employer's payroll has to be paid over to the CETAs. 1% of employers' payroll has to be paid over to the CETAs. Right, let's carry on. Businesses should register with SARS in the area in which their business is classified in terms of the CETA. Are we in insurance? Are we in banking? What area are we classified in as a business? But we should be registered with SARS in that area in terms of the CETA. Very, very, very important. All right, so moving on to the penalties for non-compliance with the Skills Development Act. Now, don't forget, with penalties, it means what? It means as a business, if we do not comply, if we do not follow the orders, if we're not compliant with the legislation, then we'll have to suffer the penalties. So what are the penalties for not complying with the Skills Development Act? It says here, businesses that do not pay the skills development levy. Remember that 1% that the employer has to pay from the employer's payroll. So it says here, the business that do not pay the skills development levy may not offer learnerships or claim grants from the Skills Development Act. So we cannot offer any learnerships if we do not pay the 1%. The second point for the penalties for non-compliance, a labor inspector could order the business to stop operating should the business be found guilty of illegal practices. So you see why it is very important as a business that we should comply with the Skills Development Act or any legislation for that matter, because should we not comply, then there are penalties, and which is a bad thing. It's a negative thing for our business. Right, now we're going to move on. We've done the non-compliances, we've done how to comply, we've done the impact, we've done the purposes. Now we're going to go into Sector Education and Training Authority. Don't forget, these are what SETAs, they also fall under the Skills Development Act. What are SETAs? SETAs were established to implement and monitor the implementation of the Skills Development Act. So basically putting the Skills Development Act into action. How do we do that? Through the SETAs. So this is the implementation of the Skills Development Act. So SETAs are there to monitor the implementation of the legislation. Right, under SETAs, as I've defined that, we've got the roles of the SETAs. What are the roles of the SETA? To report, the first one is to report to the Director General, not to the Director, but to the Director General, to promote and establish what? The learnerships. These are the roles or the functions of the SETAs. To collect levies and pay out the grants as required, to provide accreditation for skills development facilitators. These are the roles or the functions of SETAs. Don't forget, we've got different SETAs according to the departments. Like, as I said, if you are in a bank, there's a bank SETA, insurance, there's SETAs for the insurance as well, insurance companies. So you've got different SETAs. Right, and then we move on now to the next legislation. But before we go to the next legislation, which is the Labor Relations Act, we're going to go on a quick break. And then when we come back, we continue from where we left off. I'll see you just now.